Hello, lifers, and welcome back to the Live the Life podcast. I am your host, Eric Aroca. All right, so I'm keeping a close eye on my phone, which is right there. I don't know if it's on camera or not. Maybe it is now. Anyway, my phone is right here because we are um, under a tornado watch. Yay! I think it's pretty well past. I think we're good. It was raining really hard. We've actually been under a tornado watch since 8 a.m. And it was only supposed to go till 7 p.m. and then it got extended till 8 p.m. But it's 8:14 Central Time, and I think the storm has finally kind of moved on. So I think we're gonna be good to go. I was a little bit afraid of taping this episode earlier, just because if a cloud sneezes in southeast Texas, the power goes out. So glad we waited. So I think we should be good to go. All right, this week's little message for you guys from my beloved Coke Zero is homies. You're all my homies. We can be homies. Pretty cheesy, huh? Why do they come up with cheesy stuff like this? I don't get it. Like, I really liked it a few years ago when you could have your name on it, and everybody was looking for their name, and it took forever to find Eric. Go figure. And actually, Sophie is the one who found a bottle that had my name on it. So that was cool. Anyway, we can be homies. All right. Let's see. Book. What? Oh, that's fine. I have a drink. Sophie's pointing at a drink that I have right over there. In fact, why don't you just give it to me? This one's cold. This one does not say homie on it. It says fizz. So for all you Utah people out there, hey, I wouldn't mind if Fizz sponsored us. We'd get free drinks forever. Fizz. It's good for you. What is this one? Coconut, lime in the coconut. Lime in the coconut with Coke Zero. Oh, so good. But let me just give you a little bit of advice. Go easy on the coconut. Easy on the coconut. And it is so good. So good. And this is actually sugar free. So it's really healthy. All right. Book update. I am sending the final version revisions of the book tonight. I'm so excited. So we're almost there. So stay tuned for more information on that. I'll keep you posted on all that good stuff. Gosh, what else has happened? Is my book right there on the thing? So I wanted to show you guys. Being a sub is kind of a thankless job, you know. Like, we are the ones who kind of allow teachers to take some time off, to take care of whatever they need to take care of, or go on vacation or whatever. And you know, sometimes I hear a lot of subs say, "Oh, it's a thankless job, and no one appreciates us, and whatever." But if you pay close attention, you are appreciated. And this is actually Teacher Appreciation Week. Did you know that, Sophie? Teacher Appreciation Week. So to all of you teachers out there, all of you educators, hey, you are involved in a great work, and I want you to know that you make a difference. It's easy to get frustrated in the teaching business, and I think it's like any business, but I think it's easy to get frustrated because of lack of admin support, or lack of parental support, or kids just misbehaving. And I don't know. I think, you know, the amount of things that you could get frustrated about are insurmountable. And but I just want you to remember, at least for this week, that what you do matters. What you do makes a difference. So go keep doing this. Find the passion and the purpose of why you're teaching, and just persevere through those tough times, because we need you out there, and more importantly, the kids need you. But sometimes if you're feeling like a little bit sorry for yourself for things, some little, kid will come up and give you something that changes your day. So I was subbing for a second grade class, and this is what they came up with. I don't know. Can you see that, Sophie, on the camera? On the top right here, it says, can you see it? It says best sub ever. Now hone in on the hair. Right? Is that awesome or what? I love it. Okay? And it says drawn by Layla for Mr. A. Anyway, I just thought, how cute was that? I mean, she got my hair almost perfect. I think she did my hair better in the picture than I did my hair. And then, some other cute little girls did these little drawings for me, right? Mr. Aroca on there with some making colorful little signs with my name on it. Anyway, so it's stuff like that. It's little things. It's just very small little gestures that that you can kind of look forward to and know that you're appreciated by those that it matters most, which is the kids. So what? She got my square head right, Sophie says. Hey, I don't have a square head anymore. Well, maybe I do. All right. So there's that. Let's see. What else? Do we have anything else we need to... Sophie is graduating. La! She's a senior this year, and she is graduating. And there's always been I think with out of the 5 kids, with 3 of my kids, it's always been the last week is oh, you're gonna pass that class, and this time was no different. And chemistry was kicking our trash, but good job, Sophie. Got passing chem. And graduation is on the 18th, which is a Sunday, which is kind of weird. We've never been to graduation on a Sunday before. But anyway, it's on a Sunday, and looking forward to that. So that'll be excellent. So if you guys want to congratulate the one and only Sophie on the podcast here in the comments, feel free to do that. Okay, today on the episode, we are going to talk about our last pillar to build winning cultures that last. And the last pillar is values. Before we jump into values, I do want to say that there are other things besides values that are important within this pillar. And one of the things that I always harp on with organizations when I come in and consult with them is I always want to know what their mission statement is or what their vision statements are. It's always been a very intriguing thing to me that they would put so much attention on it, or at least try to put attention on it, but how many people even know that it exists? I've walked into many organizations where the vision or the mission statement is, on a huge frame or just on the wall, and it's just beautiful looking and it's nice, right? And it's got all the fancy words in it, all the words that end with ing and tion, and so it's just marvelous, right? But who knows what it means? Probably no one in the organization. So I've always found that to be a bit curious. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to be in San Diego, and I was speaking at a local company there in San Diego, and they recommended that I go to lunch at some burger place that had California's greatest avocado burger. And I'm a sucker for avocado, guac, cacahuate, as they say in Mexico. which I always think is such a funny word because caca is poop and wate is I don't know, but I just any word with the word poop in it is disconcerting. Anyways, so they told me to go to this restaurant and get avocado burger, California avocado burger. I did that, and even back in the late '90s, early 2000s, it was $18, almost like $20 for a burger. And I'm not talking fries and a drink. I'm talking about a burger, and so it was like pretty pricey. I can't even imagine what they would cost now with inflation. But anyway, so I went and got one. It was good. But while I was in line, there were some obvious dudes in front of me. They were all 6'2". I felt like they were all 6 foot and taller, right? From anywhere between 6 foot to like 6'5", it seemed like, if not taller than that. And you could tell, obvious, they were military. I mean, it was just obvious. It was oozing out of them, right? They had the haircut and, no neck, right? And, they were just ripped, right? Anyway, they were in front of me and they were having a good time talking. The line was pretty long, actually, for such an expensive burger. And so while I stood there in line and just kind of listened to the conversation or whatever, I just asked one of them, what branch in the service they were in. They mentioned that they were Navy SEALs, and I was like, oh, freaking A, like that's awesome, like, damn. And so we got to talking, and they asked me what I did for a living. I told them that I was speaking. I had just spoken at a local company. They recommended I come and grab a burger, and that kind of a thing. And so I was telling them what I was speaking about at this company, and oddly enough, I was just speaking to this company about the 3 pillars of building a winning culture that lasts, which is leadership, communication, or communicating to connect, and obviously values. So we talked a little bit about that, and they were asking me some really, I thought they were like genuinely asking me some really great questions about the 3 pillars and how it all works. I asked them quite a few questions, and we had some really good conversation. And I asked them if they could tell me, if they could recite their ethos for me. And what was strange about that is I had a PowerPoint. I was in my PowerPoint that morning. I had the Navy SEALs ethos as part of my slide deck. So it was like come full circle moment, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. So just for you to know, their ethos is like 4 or 5 paragraphs long. It's basically a full page. Their ethos is pretty amazing. So I asked them if they could recite it. In fact, I challenged them, and I said, if you guys can recite the ethos word for word, I will pay for dinner. It's on me, right? And there was like 5 or 6 guys there, so I'm thinking, $18 a pop, times 6. I'm bad at math. How much is that? I don't know. Do the math. Oh, she's got her phone. I don't know what the math is. It's a lot. And so anyway, so they took on the challenge, it was so funny because as soon as I put the challenge out there, they were like, oh yeah, no problem, I got this, or very confident and very just awesome. So they got started, and sure enough, I was like shaking in my boots. I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are actually gonna freaking do it. You know what I mean? They got like the first paragraph, everybody got the first paragraph right. And then it got to the second paragraph, and we were like halfway through the second paragraph, and then all of a sudden, it was like my prayers were answered, right? They started stumbling a little bit, and they couldn't remember exactly the order of, in which things came in and what have you. And then they just, kind of got frazzled and just kind of got frustrated with it and just said, forget it. We did the best we could. I was still very impressed that they could get that far into such a long document because it's got a lot of big words and, it's a wordy document. But what was striking to me is that they got to certain sections of the ethos. And when they got to certain sections, they said it with such conviction and with such power. There's a section in there that says, "I am that man." And when they would say that, it was just like so powerful. You would just feel it like in your bones. Like they knew that they were that man. Anyway, there was quite a few different sections in there that were just very that really struck me as they were trying to recite their ethos. So why do I share that with you? I share that with you because I feel like in organizations, regardless of the organization that you're in, I feel like this happens quite a bit. We have these fancy mission statements, vision statements that either people don't understand or people don't even pay attention to. It looks great on the walls. It looks great on the website, right? Because you can go to the About Me section or About Us section of the website, and it'll say values, mission statement, vision statement, sometimes even a purpose statement. And so, yeah, that's all great and dandy, but like, who cares, right? Like, does anybody even know what it means? And so I think it's important that as we move forward in organizations and as leaders, that we do a really good job of making sure that we are communicating clearly our vision and our mission statement, our value statements. If those things are communicated clearly, it goes a long ways to building the culture that you want to have in your organization. And so I think that sets everything up for success, is being able to have that. Now, not every organization has that. I've actually worked for organizations in the past that did not have a vision or a mission statement, did not even have a value statement. But that didn't prevent from department heads to create their own. Okay? And even if you have one, it's okay for department heads to create their own vision, mission, value statements, because they kind of go in conjunction with what the company has built, and so it becomes like a supporting, another way to support the overall mission or vision of the organization within a department. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so I think that's really interesting to do. So make sure that if you don't know if you even have a mission or a vision statement, go find out, right? Go to the lobby of your company and see if it's hanging on the wall. Go to your website and see if it's in the About Us section. If you can't find one, ask someone if a document like that exists. If it does, read over it. Do you agree with it? Does it speak to you? Does it speak to what you want to accomplish? If it does, hey, you're in a good place. And you're in a place where you could probably do a lot of good. If you're not in agreement with the vision or the mission of the organization, it's probably time to go find something else. It's probably a time to update the resume and go look for something else. Go look for an organization that has that vision or mission statement that you agree with. So, what is a vision and mission statement? A vision statement describes the desired future, the future state or long-term aspirations of the organization. So it's inspirational and forward-looking, communicating where the organization wants to go and what it hopes to achieve. So I'll give you an example. A good example would be something like to create a world where every educator feels supported, energized, and equipped to inspire future organizations. Now that may not be perfect, but it's an example, right? An example of the mission statement. A mission statement defines an organization's core purpose, so its existence for being, for existing, and focus. It describes what the organization does, what it serves, and how it serves them, typically reflecting the present state of the organization. So an example for this one could be something like to empower educators with the tools and training they need to create thriving classroom environments. So you see how those two statements support one another. Okay? So I just wanted to make sure that you had that clarification, just so that there's no confusion in moving forward. I always look at it as the vision is the grand, it's the big picture, what you're trying to achieve, what you hope to be. The mission is how you're going to go about doing that. What it is you're going to do to make that happen. So, okay. So once those two things are in place, once you have your vision and your mission statement in place, it's time to move towards creating that value statement. Now, I think that where organizations get themselves into trouble is that they want to choose many different values. So, for example, I worked for an organization once that had one for every month of the year. So they had 12 different values that they said that they aspired to live. Now, all 12 of these statements, value statements, were excellent. Not value statements, values, were actually excellent. They were very, very good. However, if you ask the employees, and I did, because I was consulting with this organization, when you ask them to recite the 12 values, they couldn't get past 4. And most of them didn't get the first 4. They just spit out the 4 that probably mattered the most to them. And those are the ones that they remembered, and those are the ones that they probably lived on a daily basis. And so they were easy to remember, and so they could say, oh, here's 4 of the 12 values that we aspire to live. So I think that's probably the biggest thing to consider when building a value statement, is that you can go overboard. So I highly recommend that you don't go past 5. And 5 is pushing it, I think. If you can get to 4, I think that's a sweet number. I think that's a great number to get to 4 values that truly represent your organization, what the organization is trying to achieve. Because again, your values are the disinfectant to your culture. Your values become the disinfectant to your culture. So, what does that mean? Well, if you have employees, if you have people within the organization who live the values on a daily basis, they are supporting the value, the belief system of the organization. If you have employees who do not live by the values or believe in the values, then you're creating a culture, but maybe not a culture that you want to have in your organization. It might be fractured, it might be broken, it might be, not what you want it to be. So you have to be able to have clearly stated values that are, I wouldn't say easy to live, that people are willing to live by. So I often tell people that when they are looking for a job, to not look at how much the job is paying you per hour or annually, or even the responsibilities. I feel like the first thing that you should look for is what is the values of the organization. In other words, their belief system. What does the organization believe? That's what values are. And if you agree with those values, then hey, find out how much it pays. Find out what the responsibilities are, what the requirements are, what skills are needed for that job, and go forward and apply for it. If you don't agree with the company's values, please, for the love of everything that is holy, do us all a favor and just don't apply. It's okay to not apply for that job. because you don't believe what the organization believes. So if you, let's just say that you end up getting the job, it's not something that's going to help you feel fulfilled. It's not going to be something that helps you in the long run, because there is a disconnect. There's a disconnect in what you believe in at your core and what the company believes at its core. So there is no harmony. And you're going to be frustrated when those values change. It becomes very apparent to you. I will give you an example. I was working for a company several years ago in the early 2000s, and it was great. It was my dream job. I landed my dream job. I was excited about it. They told me from day one that one of their core beliefs was that they were a performance-based company. That struck a chord with me because I was very competitive. I was very driven. And so they were basically telling me, as long as you perform, you'll always have a job. And I took that to heart. I performed. I performed at the highest levels. I have 30 awards to show for it. I even received the highest sales award that is given in the organization. And so I took that to heart because I believed what the company believed in. Fast forward several years, the organization goes into some significant change from the top. They basically replaced all the O's. That meant that there was going to be a culture change. And with that culture change came a different set of values. Now, they didn't update the values on the website. They did not update the values on the printed stuff that they had in the company, in the lobby. But they stated their values with their actions and with their words. So here's a company that hadn't had layoffs in years and years and years. When all their competitors were laying people off, this company was hiring. So all of a sudden, we start having layoffs. So what happened to the value of respect for people? It looks good on the website, but they're telling you differently because they're having layoffs. They're basically telling you, we do not value you as an employee. You're a commodity. Take it or leave it. We don't care. We can get rid of you. We can hire somebody to replace you. If for whatever reason, we do not value you. Sure enough, if an organization is telling you what they believe in, you should listen. Regardless of what's printed or regardless of what it says on the website, you should listen because they're telling you what they actually believe in. To this day, that organization has not been the same. They continue to have layoffs, and guess what? Documents have not changed their value statement. They still say how much they value people, right? So I find that kind of interesting. All right, so I think that becomes a very important thing then to make sure that you're in alignment with the organization's values, because it's going to help overall. And like I was saying before, values are the disinfectant to your culture. When you have someone in your culture that does not believe what the organization believes in, your next move in HR or as a manager or as a leader is to help that employee move along. Get rid of them. Go help them find where they can succeed. Go help them find the place where they can be successful. Because they're not going to be successful in your organization because they do not believe what the organization believes. If you allow that bad apple to stay in that bushel, that apple will ruin the rest of the apples. And I've seen it time and time again. So your values become your disinfectant. It's a way to make sure that your organizational culture is disinfected, that it is always running smoothly, that it is, and I'm not saying that you need to hire a bunch of mini-me's or mini-yous, right? It's not about that. It's just hiring people that believe what you believe. Your values become your disinfectant. It's how you clean your culture. Your values are so important that the values of the organization should govern all decision making within the organization. And I've had a little bit of pushback about this from some CEOs and some of the other leaders that I consult with. And I have to go back to them and say, well, your values govern everything. They govern every decision that you will ever have to make. Whether it's hiring, who to hire, who to fire, financial decisions, HR, whatever, investments, whatever the decision is that has to be made, your values will govern that decision making. And they should support, those values should support whatever decision you make. I tell them, tie everything back to your values. If you're firing someone, how does firing them, the reason why you're firing them, how does that tie back to your values? Because if you always tie it to your values, there's really not a leg to stand on. There's really no way that you can go back and say, oh, well, they were discriminating, or they were doing this, or they did this wrong, or this was a wrongful fire because of XYZ. Because they can tie it back to their value statement. Because their values govern the organization. The values govern all decision making along the way. So this is why values are so critically important in every single organization. Listen, if your organization, for example, believes in being environmentally friendly, and that is a core tenet, that is a core value of the organization, and you don't believe in being environmentally friendly, you should go find somewhere else to work, because you're always going to be at odds. It's just not going to be a good fit. If you're an organization that says that your people are your greatest asset, that you value people, and you continually have layoffs, and you continually demonstrate to your people that you don't value them, you're at odds. Your value system is off. So you really need to consider what your values are, and do you actually believe in them, and do you actually live them? And as a leader, it becomes paramount that you, as the leader, live by the values of the organization. Because you, as we stated several weeks ago in the episode, set the standard for your culture. It starts with you. It is a top-down approach. So people are always looking at you. So, yes, you're under the spotlight all the time. So if you live a different life at work than you live at home, that's going to show. So you should not be surprised of the behavior that happens within your employees if it's at odds with your values, because you're showing them the way, right? Okay. So I'm often asked, Eric, what is the, if I could only do one thing, if I could do one thing to move the needle in building a winning culture that lasts, what would it be? And I think that's a great question. The answer is very simple. The answer is this: recognize and reward people in your organization that live the values of the organization. Recognize them publicly. Recognize them privately. Not everybody wants to be recognized, at the company party, or, just not everybody wants to be recognized publicly and have their name in lights or what have you. Not everybody is Eric Aroca, right? I'm shallow like that. I like that. And that's okay, but you do need to take the time to recognize them. If you have a newsletter, hey, plug them into the newsletter and state what it was they did, why they're being recognized, what value were they living, how did they show it, how did they live it, what's the story behind that. Share those stories, okay? Stories become very impactful in your organization. So you want to take those good stories of people living the values and share them openly and often with people, okay? It sets the culture. It helps sets the culture. So recognize often and then reward them for actually living the values. Now, rewarding them, that could be anything. It could be, I had an organization once that upon you being hired by them, they would have you fill out all the paperwork, and one of the things that you had to fill out was where you like to shop online. Okay, so I had PocketSquares.com. I had Bass Pro Shops, or I think back then it was Cabela's because we lived in Utah. We didn't have Bass Pro Shops, so I had Cabela's on there. I think I had Men's Warehouse on that. And so anytime that I was recognized for anything in the organization, I would get the recognition, which I love, right? Because I'm shallow like that. So I would get a plaque, I would get an award, something to show for it. But then I would also get like a gift certificate to one of those organizations that I said I would typically shop at. So I loved getting gift cards, for example, to go shop at Cabela's. That was great. So recognize and reward your employees who are living the values of the organization. It is the number one thing that will move the needle further and the fastest than anything else that you can do in your organization. When people see that they're being recognized, when people see that others are being rewarded, and they understand why they're being recognized, why they're being rewarded, because they were living this value, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go out of their way to try and do the same. Why? Because they want to be recognized, whether it's publicly or privately, and they want to be rewarded. It is human nature. It's how we roll. That's why it is such a fast way to move the needle in helping you to create the culture that you want to create. I worked for another organization just a few years ago, and our head of HR, she was fantastic. Loved her just so much. She came up with this great idea. She had this huge board put up in a common area of the organization. So everybody walked by this place, regardless of what department you worked in. So it was a very common area, highly trafficked area, and basically it was a value board, and it had all of I think it was 5 different values that the company had, and she had all 5 values on there with the description, what the value actually means, right? Which was genius on her part, because we want to clearly communicate our values to people. And then she would have these, I think they were like 5x7 cards, just a stack of them. And they had the company logo on them. It had who was writing it, who it was for, and what the story was. And so basically this was an opportunity for anyone in the organization, if they saw anyone else in the organization living one of their values, they could fill out one of those cards and pin it on the wall. Now, I gotta tell you that was awesome. That was a great way to recognize people. And once a month, everyone that got their name put on the wall would have either a lunch or a breakfast provided by the company. So all those people that were nominated, they would come together and they would go to that lunch or go to that breakfast, and they loved it. Heck, I loved it. I thought it was great because I got invited to, I think, all but one. I think the first month I did not get nominated for anything. Can you believe it? But after that, I got nominated every single month, got recognized every single month. And so that was something I look forward to. And if nothing else, man, I wanted to keep doing it because I wanted that free lunch. I wanted that free breakfast. I wanted that little bit extra time to build relationships with other coworkers and get to know other people. And that was a great way to do it. So just another helpful tip on creating that culture and helping people to live the values that the organization espouses to live. I think it's really that important that we really do take the time, use your creativity in figuring out how you're going to recognize people, how you're going to reward them. There are many, many different ways that you can do that, and just pick whatever works best for the organization. But I think it's just important that we do it. Because like I said, it's the fastest way to move the needle and get things moving in the right direction. So values become the disinfectant to your culture. They are that important. I don't think we can say anything else about it, can we? I mean, geez, that's pretty dang good. Anyways, so make it a point, make it a practice in your organization to live those values. Make it a practice to communicate those values clearly with the people that you work with. The more they understand those values and the clearer they become to them, the easier it will be for them to live up to those values. And then, like I said, recognize and reward people for doing it. It moves the needle, and it really does help improve the culture of any organization. If the organization does not have anything in place, does not have a vision, a mission, value statements, anything like that, within your own department, you can do that. Within the team that you're leading, you could do that. If you're, for example, let's just say that you're an HVAC, right, heating and air. If you're in a plumbing company, if you're working for an HR company, a recruiting company, and those things don't exist, which I would highly, find it highly doubtful that they wouldn't exist, but let's just say that they don't, or they do exist, but no one's really living up to it or understands what the heck it means. Listen, create those value statements within your own organization. Every sales team I've ever worked in has had its own separate value statements, because as a sales team, there were certain things that we believed in, certain things that were important at our core and that we lived up to. And so those things, though, were supportive of the overall message or values of the organization. So it was never conflicting. It was just an add-on to support the organization. And it kept us focused. We produced at a high level, so we were very productive, and that obviously helps. So you can get a lot done. So don't worry too much if those things don't exist, or if you feel like you don't get the support that you need overall from the organization. As a department head, create your own. If you're an educator, don't wait for the district to do it for you. If you're an administrator in a school, well, if you're the principal, it starts with you. Your school culture starts with you. It begins with you. If you're a teacher, your classroom culture begins with you. It does not begin with your students. It does not begin with your parents. It begins with you. So you have to take the reins. You have to determine what it is that you're going to believe in your classroom. Now, I've seen some really good examples just because I've been subbing in research for the culture book that I'm going to be writing end of this year, early next year. And so all of my research has shown that, you know, I haven't seen very many classroom rules. I haven't seen anything that says classroom rules. What I have seen is classroom promises. And I like that. I have seen value statements in the classroom. This is what we value. We value hard work, as an example. We value respect. We value, fill in the blank, right? You guys get where I'm going. And so now those values become the disinfectant to that school, to that sales group, to that HR team, to that classroom. So now every decision that we make is based on those values moving forward. If there's disciplinary things that need to take place, it is based on the values. It is all foundational. The values sit at the foundation of your culture. That's why they are the disinfectant. So you're not alone. And even if you find yourself alone, you can do this. I did it. I've done it everywhere I've been. Whether the company had those things in place or not, I did it. And I continue to do it. And I can tell you that even in me, I'm going out and subbing, I no longer go to all of the schools that I started subbing to all year. Why? Because of their values. Because not every school values the same things. And some schools have the values just as a show and tell, but that's it. They don't actually live the values. They don't do anything on a daily basis to support or to show that they are living those values. So when I see that as a substitute, I simply just say, not coming back to this school. I don't need that headache. I go home feeling drained of my energy, and it's just like, it's like been the worst day ever, right? The kids behave the same way. And so I go to schools now where I know that the values are being lived, that people practice living the values. They're not perfect, but they're trying. They make every effort. People are recognized. People are rewarded because they are living those values. The values are clearly stated to everyone. And so the kids behave a certain way. The teachers behave a certain way. They start teaching differently. You set the culture for your organization, for your team, for the people that you lead. So it's up to you. So remember that the 3 critical pillars to building a winning culture are: 1, leadership, because leadership starts with the individual, not with the title or position. It starts with the individual. Communicate to connect. Don't communicate to hear yourself talk. Don't communicate because you think you're so important. Communicate to make connections with other people. The more connections that you make, the greater impact you will have. And lastly, live up to the values that the company espouses to, that the company believes in. If you do that, you will attract other people, and you will motivate and inspire, more importantly, inspire other people to live those values as well. And when you have all 3 of those things going and working in a positive direction, you are building a winning culture that will stand the test of time. And that, my friends, is what creates a winning culture. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hey, remember that as you live the 3 tenets or those 3 pillars of building a winning culture, that those things help you live the life. Until next time.